Okay, let me close that. I was trying to look up bad reviews for Empire Strikes Back because I wanted to kind of have a counter argument as to why.
Let me guess, you couldn't find any, could you?
Actually, I could.
Oh, come on. When
it first came out,
drug-addicted lunatic in their wrong mind would ever give Empire
a few people were having these like reviews.
I don't like it.
They didn't understand what was going on.
I don't get it, man. Why is there snow? We're here to talk about The Last Jedi, which is a movie. It's called a movie, right?
Yeah,
it's like the talking pictures that talk back to you. They kind of do. It's a sequel, a direct sequel to The Force Awakens, which came out 2 years previous, 2015, that I really enjoyed, actually.
So did I.
And
I actually, I mean, how are we going to do this? Am I going to like give my?
We're going to start off. First, we're going to start off with the history of Star Wars to coincide with this beautiful slideshow presentation that I've put together.
Do you have a seeing original Star Wars story? Because I do.
The original Star Wars
in 1977. Did you go?
Yeah, I believe I did, and I saw the movie several times.
You would have been just a little younger than me because it didn't hit.
Have been
until later.
Yeah, I would have been 4 years old when it came out, and saw it in the movie theater many times. And this was in the days of before like video really took off.
Oh yeah.
So if you wanted to see a movie, you had to go and see it. And if you wanted if you wanted to have like a piece of the movie, the only way you could have a piece of the movie, other than the action figures, I guess, which didn't really come out till Christmas of that year, but you bought the soundtrack. So you bought the soundtrack like on vinyl or tape or 8-track or something like that, just to get like some kind of like a feeling like of the movie in your home. The movie comes out in May of '77, and then it becomes an enormous hit. I mean, like, well, kind of goes beyond enormous
in
really,
a few theaters
for the time.
It opens, actually they start it as a 70mm special presentation in a few theaters, and it blows up, then slowly like moves around the country. They start making more prints in 35mm.
Yeah, you know why? That's because Fox thought they had a flop on their hands.
Yeah.
So they were going to try and open it,
but the hype
in a
on it was
kind
so
of
much.
Carnival revival kind of thing.
The hype on it was so much of like people going around, like every sort of big city would have a big theater, like a 70mm theater, and it was this event that people were sideswiped by. And then so of course Fox is smart, and they start making more prints, and then that's why there's so many different sort of audio mixes of the film, because it first comes out as sort of a 70mm Dolby Stereo mix, which was their first. It was actually one of the first movies that they actually did in 70mm with Dolby, and cleaned it up as much as they could, and did not have split surrounds. It would have left, center, right, and then the rear surround. The two other channels, which you usually get on 70mm film, they used those for bass, and they were called the Baby Boom. I saw it originally in 1977 when it made it to Seattle. I'm going to guess not in that original. It probably made it to. It was a 70mm presentation, but it probably made it to Seattle in like June or July during sort of the second wave of release. I went. I was 5. I was bored out of my mind. I was fussy. I was shifting around. My dad wisely took me out of the theater so he could smoke, and we could just sort of walk around. So I only saw like the first half and couldn't process any of what I saw because it was a crappy seat. 2 years later, of course, now I'm 7 and I can, I understand like don't eat dirt.
Right.
I've almost figured out that things come on TV at certain times. My brain is actually functioning sort of. When we go again, of course, now I know because of my brother, he's got the toys, so now I have the toys, and I go again, and it has literally blown my mind.
So we move forward to Empire Strikes Back, which is considered the best of the movies. Directed by Irving Kershner, who was George Lucas's old teacher at USC. And he does a much better job because he's better at handling the actors. I mean, the actors, he wanted to focus more. He didn't really care about the visual effects. He knew that other people were responsible for the visual effects, and George Lucas was responsible for all of that, making sure everybody does their job in that capacity.
I have a question. As a director, was he responsible for taking that Lee Brackett script and saying no, or was that George Lucas? Because
no, George Lucas. See, George Lucas. What Lucas did was he engaged 2 writers. He said, Lawrence, I really need somebody to write out my story for the script for the next movie that we're going to do for Star Wars. And then he goes over to Leigh Bracken. He says, Leigh Bracken, I need somebody to write a script for the story. He has them working. He has them working at cross purposes, and then he says, you know what? I like both of your scripts. Why don't you two get together and throw out the stuff you don't like and keep the stuff you do like, and you guys work together on this. So, I mean, it was like an 8-month process that they were working on their screenplays.
Are you sure they worked together?
They did. They worked together for about a month. That's how you used to write back then. I don't know what Rian Johnson does these days, but that's how you wrote back then. So the both of them, I mean, Leigh Bracken wrote Westerns. I mean, it was all about the drama and it was all about the romance. That was that angle. And then there was Kasdan kind of putting it all together in an action-adventure frame. Because Kasdan wrote the screenplay for Raiders also. And in addition to Jedi and Force Awakens. We move forward anyway to Jedi in 1983.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jedi not being the best of the movies. I'm going to have my top 10. Did you do your top 10? Or top 9, as it were?
I don't have it written down, but it's in my head. And
we'll get to that right after this. So Jedi is kind of, you know, the thing is Jedi satisfied a lot of people. People were very happy with it. I remember being very happy with it simply because it was another Star Wars movie. I was very happy about that. This is the first time with Last Jedi is the first time I was not happy just because it was a Star Wars film. A lot of people in the audience watching it with me were dissatisfied with a lot of elements of it, but we still applauded at the same moments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some people, but we applauded. You know, we applauded when we saw the Lucasfilm logo. We applauded when we saw the Star Wars credit sequence, as usual. Yeah. We applauded when we saw. Oh God, what did we applaud? Well, we applauded when we saw Yoda. That was a great thing. Oh, I should mention though, throughout this show, there will be spoilers.
Yeah, and
of course, I'll put spoiler warnings in it.
Oh yeah,
and. You know, I can't believe that Star Wars fans will not have seen it by the point this airs, which will probably be later in the week.
We're gonna put. I mean, you know, when you're done with it. I mean, this is a collaboration. You are the genius. You're the editing genius, and you put the whole thing together. Then you give it to me, and then I kind of I tidy up the whatever the title is, and I.
But I guess you're gonna have to put
spoilers
like
all over this.
You'll have to put block uppercase spoiler,
yeah.
Whatever. I don't know.
The first, I'd say, half is good, and then it starts to become this like, okay, we got to wrap this up. It gets condensed. The narrative.
Yeah, that's condensed. Okay. That's. I remember having this conversation with Mark. That's the end of Empire. When they rescue Han and Yoda dies, that's the end of The Empire Strikes Back. The beginning of Jedi is with the new plan to go to the forest moon of Endor. That's where Jedi begins. The problem, Jedi begins there.
When I think of like how this could have been fixed in a script of, you don't need Ewoks, it just slows it down, as we will probably discuss in the new movie of things that slow it down. You get rid of Ewoks, you don't do a Death Star, you have a final battle on Coruscant instead with the Emperor there. And a huge battle, and then Han Solo dies good, saving everyone. And then you have, like, sort of the final, you know, their brother and sister, and they've saved the day, but at great cost of Han Solo. There's your movie right there.
According to John Williams, because I have his liner notes on one soundtrack, there was a soundtrack of Empire Strikes Back that was produced by a different company that a different symphony orchestra, and Williams supervised the recording of that. He says in his liner notes that Lucas was planning on starting the prequels in 1987 to commemorate the 10th anniversary of Star Wars, and then changed his mind, decided to make it 20 years, so 1997 he was going to do it. And then that wound up not happening either. So Phantom Menace comes out in 1999. Again, another big moment. This was huge.
It was.
When I sat in the theater, cheering, roaring applause when the Fox logo comes up, because everybody associates, this is one of the problems that we have now, is that we don't see the Fox logo anymore. Because Fox, I always considered as a kid, and even as a Star Wars fan or something like that, the Fox logo, the fanfare, is synonymous with Star Wars. You want to hear that before you hear it. I think we might hear it. We might hear it again for the next movie, right?
It starts off with the fanfare, then it goes into, oh, I just realized something. Disney has bought Fox, right?
Yes.
They're going to continue to run the Fox company. I'm assuming there's still going to be a 20th Century Fox. Who's to say Disney can't release it now through 20th Century Fox?
And have that...
It's Lucasfilm. It's part of the same company. Now you got the fanfare. They can do that. I just realized that right now.
it was interesting. The kid was annoying. I didn't like a lot of what was going on. There was a lot about Senate and trade agreements and all this stuff and embargoes and all that politics stuff. But I got to say, I love Liam Neeson. I think he was wonderful in the movie. He is perfect casting for that part. Ewan McGregor was fine as Obi-Wan. He's kind of an obstinate little brat. And then you have Natalie Portman, who is more beautiful than she is talented. And then you have the young boy who is wonderful. Jake Lloyd, I think is his name.
Yeah, he's not doing well these days, though. I think he has like schizophrenia or something. He's not doing well. He got arrested.
He's conflicted. He has doubt. Clouded this boy's future is.
Yeah. As a promotion on boxes of Cheerios, there was this big thing on the back of it. Movie cash worth $12 on every box of Cheerios. Okay. $12. I cut it out. I take it to the theater, and I bought my ticket with that.
That's pretty cool.
I know. I just hope that they got paid because that was. Cheerios is popular.
I wonder how much. I think movie tickets were around $9. They were hovering around $9.
Well, around this time, I think a matinee show would have probably been about $5 at my theater.
Even on reflection, I was nowhere near as disappointed with Phantom Menace as I was with Last Jedi. Just to throw that in there. I was not.
Well, we'll get to that later.
Absolutely not.
I mean, I did end up seeing it again because there was some sort of special thing about 6 months after it came out, like near the end of the year, there was a special like charity re-release in a few hundred theaters. And I thought, well, yeah, I'll do it for the kids.
So we move on to Attack of the Clones, which comes out in 2002, I think.
Yeah.
And you have a fully grown, annoying Hayden Christensen playing Anakin Skywalker.
A really good actor. It's Lucas.
He might be a great actor, but Lucas said, "You know what? You're a bad actor in these movies, so be it."
Everyone is. Natalie Portman is. Ewan McGregor.
God damn it! I'm so in love with you, Anakin. Yeah. Shut the fuck up. Anyway.
Yeah, the whole.
So Attack of the Clones. Actually, there's a lot of really great stuff in Attack of the Clones. There's a lot of great mystery and action and adventure, but it's probably one of the worst, actually. In my list, it's down near the bottom. And I saw that in the theater. Now, the movie I didn't see in the theater, I didn't get to see because my wife was pregnant with our daughter, and we were worried and all that stuff, like you do. You just don't have time to have a baby when your wife's pregnant, was Revenge of the Sith, which I really wish I had seen in the theater because that one I did enjoy for a lot of reasons, not for the back and forth between Anakin and Padme there. I really enjoyed the last 20 minutes of that movie. I thought they were brilliant, and they were exactly the way I would have pictured, the birth of Darth Vader and all that stuff. I thought it was wonderful the way it was. And also, I think, what's his name? Who's the dude? Who's the Ian McNimmyard?
Ian McDiarmid,
who plays Emperor.
He's the Emperor.
He plays the Emperor, of course.
I want to kind of go back to.
That's okay. Wait, before you start,
yeah.
I knew I knew who that was.
Yeah.
I knew when I saw him in Phantom Menace, I said that's going to be the Emperor.
Well, it's
because that's the same actor.
It's the same actor. I knew that, but
yes.
And that was the thing of like, this is where they like at the end of Phantom Menace, Yoda's going, only two there are, and he's basically like, I wonder who it could be, and then they kind of zoom in on.
Yeah, they move the camera
and
toward
I'm
him.
Like, I know who he is. I know who it is.
Lucas thinks we forgot, but we remember.
I know who he is. I mean, he also played the sassy butler in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
You kind of know at the end of Attack of the Clones anyway. He telegraphs it because you're doing very well, young Skywalker.
Well, also at the end of Phantom Menace,
actually,
he goes,
Phantom Menace.
Keep my eye on you.
He's like, we will monitor your success or something. It's like very, very. He is great in Sith. He makes it believable. All of that is.
By the time they get to Sith, he's basically. It's this weird. It's almost like this weird sort of creepy pedophile thing where he's seducing him. He's
the only thing I remember
over to his side. I mean, he already nudged him to kill. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but Count Dooku, played by Christopher Lee, he comes in.
Yeah, Yoda is always the last one who gets the information. He says, "Turn to the dark side." Dooku has. I mean, it's like, duh, we knew that, Yoda. Thank you.
That will get to my sort of my defense of Last Jedi of like, we thought Count Dooku was going to maybe be a bad guy. He comes in, he comes in, and then he's out. Certainly, it's the most competently made, the least crappy, but even as far as Star Wars movies go,
except for all the cringeworthy dialogue between Amidala and Anakin.
It's just good. That's the best you can say.
I mean,
good.
Amidala is one of the disappointments of the franchise because she starts off being this brave young girl. She becomes a badass. and then she becomes this kind of dependent, clingy, pregnant woman.
No,
And that's not really what I know. You're going to say a few things. I know what you're going to say with regard to women and things, but no, I think women get braver as they begin to realize the stakes, as they begin to understand. Hey, it's not important to be an elected queen, even though that makes no sense. Queens are supposed to be royalty. You don't really elect royalty. But when it comes down to it, what really matters is life. It's giving birth. It's bringing forth new people into this universe. It's being a mother. It's being a protector. It's being a defender.
Though, she gave birth in the most puny, clean way that anybody could ever. She just kind of.
They had clean, sterile robots. How creepy is it that you have these kind of midwife robots telling you to be calm, give birth. They're hovering above her.
And they're fully baked babies too. They're like about 2 or 3 months old.
It's like the voice of Siri. I mean, it's like if you had Siri, I'm about to go into labor. What do I do? Lie down. Spread your legs. It's creepy. So Sith ends, that's 2005, and then 10 years later, I guess George Lucas has given up the fight, given up the ghost.
He gave up the ghost actually, that was the weird thing of like, we got the announcement in late 2012. It was, and this is the way I feel about the new movies. It's almost like you're in your late 40s or early 50s and you're pregnant and you're going to have a kid. And now it becomes, okay, this is the thing. We're having a kid and we're old, but we're going to do it. And then you have that kid. That's what this is. This is a way too late surprise kid. That's what these new movies are. And I think in a good way.
They're way too late. They waited too long. I felt they waited too long.
Well, no, they waited just the right amount of time because it.
No, I think. Well, I
so
think
much
that,
build up, but it was a surprise when I saw that announcement. I went because there was no foreshadowing of this ever. So
all right. So at the end of Sith, you have at 10-year gaps. Lucas sells Lucasfilm to Disney,
and then they start making announcements of like. Okay, our director...
Now Disney has the property, and they're like, well, this is a freaking cash machine. We're going to start rolling out product every year now.
Our director is J.J. Abrams of the Star Trek films that he brought back, which I'm going to defend Star Trek for a second. I love that first Star Trek movie. I know you're going to... Okay, but okay, so I'm like, okay, this could be good. And then...
I was really impressed with Force Awakens. I think... Force Awakens I consider to be a superior remake to A New Hope, the first Star Wars movie, and it is very much. There's a lot of
Return
the same.
of the Jedi when you think about it. Return of the Jedi is basically Star Wars. It's like the last half of Star Wars, but finishing the story, but with a budget.
But I think JJ does a better job than George Lucas. He's better at dealing with people. That's a great thing. Well, JJ Abrams is a guy that I really want to hate because he's a guy who's managed to do so many cool things that I've enjoyed, and the thing is. There's along the same lines of this kind of wave of thinking in a way because he is of our age bracket.
Yeah.
Maybe he's a little bit older than us just by a year or two, a hair. And he makes Lost, which I thought was a great show until the final season.
They completely screwed the whole audience.
Oh my God.
Like, what the hell?
Oh my God. I can't even, Lost is kind of like the show that you do not mention. It's kind of like Voldemort. You don't talk about it because... the first 5 seasons are wonderful, and then there's that final season, which just totally, it's like a big middle finger.
I wouldn't even say the season. I would literally say the last episode of like, what?
He did a great job. He brought, what he managed to do with Force Awakens? He managed to make the Star Wars story more accessible and more real. It was a very real kind of, it wasn't, I loved like the handheld camera work, the practical visual effects that were going on. He did a fine job. The Force Awakens is near my top. And then after that, because Disney has the property, they roll out Rogue One, which you have had issues with, I know. I have had issues with it too, mainly for how it was executed. I think it's a great story.
It was a great idea.
I think there's a great story in there. It's what it is prisoners who are forced to do this thing, and then they're all going to die, and I like that. This is the first time we see a narrative in Star Wars that feels completely fresh. It feels fresh.
I think...
It's just not done very well.
I think it would have been better if it's basically 2 movies stitched together with different sort of visions of... I think it would have been better... It would have been better if it had either been what the original version of what the director wanted or the original version of what the producers wanted. But you needed a clear vision of what I might be leaning towards what the producers wanted, because what the producers wanted was the good stuff that I liked. Even the ending, the awesome ending. that is pretty much one of the best.
There was
Star
too
Wars
much
moments
shit
in
that was
history.
there to obviously it was designed to pad it out. There was so much crap in there that could have been cut down.
Well, I mean, there's
And that's the
stuff
same
that could have been
problem
cut
when I'm
down.
going to talk about with Last Jedi when we get to it.
Yeah.
There's too much stuff that's distracting. Why does she have to go to this array communications device and then go back and pick up a hard drive and put the hard drive in and then go? It's
That
like
part
all this
was
back and
recut.
forth
It was
shit.
even more complicated in the original version.
But I love the
repurposed.
Melancholia style ending. We talked about this on a Two Davids episode. I love the idea of making out as your world is blowing up. That's just wonderful.
Or
I
doing
think
it,
that's
maybe.
wonderful.
Isn't there?
Yeah,
Isn't there
maybe.
like it's a Kevin Smith? I can't remember if it's in a movie or he describes it of like if he's going down in a plane, he's gonna start jerking off. You're like, fuck it.
What again? I gotta ask. What is it with people, filmmakers who just want to whip it out? Anyway.
Yeah. Shades of Harvey. I think it was Jason Lee, so maybe it was Shades of Harvey Weinstein there.
Okay, so after Rogue One comes out, here we are in 2017.
Yeah.
December 15th, the first release. You saw it on the day it opened. I saw it 2 days later.
Yes.
The Last Jedi.
Yes.
Which I have affectionately titled Meh. That's all I call it. I just call it Meh.
Would
Okay,
that be
now-
the first thing on the crawl? Just meh.
Meh. Just meh and then 4 dots after it. All right, should I start from top to bottom?
Yes,
Yeah, I should start from top to bottom because
best to
everybody.
worst, yeah.
Yeah, because that's where everything's going to go to hell. All right.
Uh-huh.
All right. So number one, obviously, you don't even have to guess.
Yeah.
Number one, the best movie in the Star Wars franchise is, drumroll, The Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
It's a wonderful. It's perfect. It's everything. It's everything you want. It's action, adventure, sci-fi, romance, and sacrifice, and bad things happening. It's an indie movie. I wrote this in a review. Well, it was an article I wrote for Film Threat a long time ago. Empire Strikes Back, great sequel or greatest sequel, and I said that this is an indie movie. It's an indie movie because it was made with George Lucas's money.
It's made with George Lucas's money and then some of Fox's money because he ran out of money.
He ran out of money. He
ended up
needed a
having
bank
to, like,
loan.
take-
But by the
take
time
some of the
he
hit to do it.
by the time he went to Fox with his hat in his hand, they had 80% of the movie shot. They just needed to finish the visual effects. That's really all that they needed to pay for. Okay, number 2 on the list is The Force Awakens.
Whoa, that's hot.
It's a superior remake of A New Hope. It's a better version of that movie. I love Rey. I think she's wonderful and completely natural in this movie. It's so much fun, and it was so great to finally actually. One of the things I remember saying to you and other people was that this is the Star Wars movie I was waiting for. I was absolutely enthralled by it, and I was thrilled by it. Number 3, A New Hope, the one that started it all, 1977. We talked about it before. This is the movie that set the world on fire. Number 4, here we go with controversy. You ready for the controversy?
Yeah.
The Phantom Menace. Number 4, its origin story is wonderful. It's a lot of fun in the spirit of Star Wars. And Liam. So there you go. Okay, you ready for some more controversy?
Okay, so we're Phantom Menace is 4. Okay, what's 5?
Number 5 is Rogue One. Rogue One gets the 5th place in my list because
can I throw in a Bela Lugosi? Fuck you!
nobody gives 2 fucks for Rogue One. This gets points simply for the story. I really like the story and how it was put together.
Okay, I'm not going to argue. I'll let you talk.
It doesn't get for anything else, not the editing, not the cinema, not anything else. I just think it was brave to say, hey, wait a minute, let's try something different. Let's try the Dirty Dozen Star Wars style. Let's have a bunch of prisoners do a bunch of things. Okay, number 6, directly under Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, the birth of Darth Vader, the excellent ending. That's why it gets a very high place. Now we're getting into the dregs. What movies are left, David?
Okay, you've got the rest of the prequels. You've got Return of the Jedi in there somewhere, I would hope.
Yeah, I do, don't I? Okay, now directly under Revenge of the Sith, and I had to do this. It was actually higher before, and I told you last night. I said I'm going to have to drop this one place, because of all the shit that I just thought of, which pissed me off. Number 7 in the list is The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi gets this spot. Well, it's better than the final 2 movies.
It's higher than I thought it would be because you haven't done Return of the Jedi yet, have you?
I have not.
Oh, no.
As a matter of fact, Return of the Jedi is next on the list.
Okay.
Ewoks. another Death Star. That's all I get for that. Return of the Jedi, not a good movie. It's not well made. It's not well acted. The visual effects are slightly better than A New Hope, but not as good as Empire Strikes Back. A lot of more work went into, I think, in my opinion, a lot more work went into the visual effects of Empire than in Jedi. And finally, you know what the final one is, obviously.
Yeah.
Attack of the Clones. And it's terrible. It's just terrible.
Now, I want to ask you, even though it's your least favorite, are there not good bits? Would you not watch this again if, say, it was on TV or you're flipping through? Would you not watch part of it? Would you?
Well, we do around Christmas time and extending into New Year's. We do a Star Wars marathon, so we watch them all in order.
Yeah, they're on TNT right now. They're just,
and Regan's looking forward to it. Regan asked me the other day, said, "Are we doing the Star Wars marathon? Are we doing it in chronological order or in order of release?" And I was like, in chronological order. I like to start off with Phantom Menace and end with.
Now, can I ask you what are your family's thoughts? Because you went with your wife, you went with your kid. What were their thoughts of the new one?
Actually, I'll tell you, Bronwyn and Regan, they liked Last Jedi, and we argued quite a bit on the walk home. I was like, "What the fuck?" I said, "If this movie's good, I'm getting myself a shirt," because they were selling T-shirts over there at the movie theater. And she's like, and we got out of the movie theater, when the movie ended, and she's like, "Do you want a T-shirt?" And I said, "No." And she said, "You didn't like it?" I said, "No, I didn't." So she was trying to explain to me all the finer details that I might have missed. Like she was telling me that Luke Skywalker was talking about how being a Jedi is nothing special. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck is the point of these movies if being a Jedi is not special? Anyway, but they did enjoy it. They did enjoy it, and they, I was just like, what? But I guess we're going to talk about that after you're done.
George Lucas has said, this is just a kids movie. This is
just a
but
that's what you say.
Made for kids.
But the thing is, that's not no. The thing is, Star Wars was not meant for kids because they didn't make kids movies in '77. So how do you go from
he made
77?
But he made it. He wanted to make something that was a throwback to Flash Gordon.
Do your list, starting from good to bad,
and I'll try and give you my reasons. Okay, so of course, number one, Empire Strikes Back.
We all agree
for various reasons, because it's the sort of movie where you go in. Everybody, the Star Wars was so huge. You went in with huge expectations because everybody loves Star Wars. Now, it'll be high on my list, but the original Star Wars is, I mean, if you're not, for the uninitiated, for someone, this was a mind blower. People couldn't, this is probably part of why people went over and over again. They couldn't quite process what they just seen.
Right.
It was just mind blowing. So you go in with these expectations of having your mind blown. Now, you don't necessarily have your mind blown because you know what you're getting, but then they actually hit you with some actual plot and some actual story, and then of course they give you the Darth Vader zinger at the end, and you're
right,
like,
and it's well acted. It's
well
so
made.
well acted.
Yeah.
The actors are operating on a level that, I mean, they never got as good as that again.
Yeah.
They really didn't. I mean, Hamill and Ford and Fisher were fantastic in the movie.
And then
they were so real.
Number two, I think, would be, it's a toss-up between the original first Star Wars and The Last Jedi. It's a toss-up.
I think we're done here. This has been In Conversation. I want to thank my guest, David Anderson.
Fuck you!
You're breaking my heart. You're tearing it apart. So fuck you.
Are you seriously?
I am serious, and we'll get to my reasons as to why. And
you know what? Marijuana is legalized in Washington.
I don't smoke weed. I don't take drugs. I'm completely clear. I'm completely level-headed here. Okay, so
you got 500 million fans and 4-part harmony singing.
Bullshit! To make you feel better, I'll make this.
Are you fucking kidding me? You think this is you think Last
Jedi
Jedi is better than Force Awakens?
But it's very close. It's literally like it could flip a coin. It's Star Wars number 2, the original Star Wars, A New Hope, and The Last Jedi number 3. I'd say number 4, I guess, is Return of the Jedi.
Really?
I am still of the opinion that if you take out Ewoks, if you just come in and watch the end, it's an emotionally satisfying ending, and it has a rousing start with Jabba the Hutt and everything. You get that, but then when you get into Ewoks, it gets a little slow, and then that's where you. So yeah, number 4, Return of the Jedi. Number 5, probably be Force Awakens. It needed to be the movie that it was in order to continue the story And then it goes back to
You actually think that Last Jedi is better than Force Awakens?
yes,
Unbelievable.
for reasons that we will get into when we actually do the review. I know.
I feel like I've taught you nothing. I mean, I feel like you've gone to the dark side, and there's nothing we can do
You've
about
gone
it.
to the dark side.
I have not. More people will agree with my assessment,
No, a few
with my
people on
list.
the internet that are very loud are agreeing with you.
You know what? You know, when people are listening to this, they're going to be like, "What the fuck did he just say?"
I'm gonna stand by it until I see it again. I tried to when I go to a movie, I go in with and you've said this yourself. You go in with an open mind. I might like this, I might not like this. I went in with an open mind with Rogue One, and I saw it, and I'm like,
you know what? I was expecting to like The Last Jedi. I did not go in there with any preconceived notions. It's a Star Wars movie. I was expecting to like, and you know me, I have a sunny outlook on movies. I love movies. I think the movie Last Jedi was competently done. The visual effects were fantastic. The two moments that I like in the movie, I really like, but everything else is crap. For me, I just think that the writer, the writer-director of this, Rian Johnson, knew nothing about Star Wars, did not see the previous movie, and really didn't have any idea what he was doing.
well, I'm gonna say
I can't believe they gave him this. I can't believe he got this
now.
opportunity.
Look, I was quiet during your list, even though I wanted to say
Okay.
things.
All right. What's
so
next?
I've got let's see, I've done Force Awakens is number 6. Wait,
I'm still fucking angry about this. It's amazing.
Force
It's
Awakens.
amazing. I was talking to myself in my sleep. I said, Laura Dern didn't tell Poe the plan. You know, I was grumbling in my sleep.
Force Awakens is number 6. Then Return, and then so I've done all the originals.
You're at number 6.
I'm
right?
at number 6. Okay, so the next
on
one,
my list, number 6 was Revenge of the Sith.
yeah, that'll probably.
Okay, what are your next
Yeah, the next
three,
one
then?
would probably be. Then I go through the prequels.
You
know,
Okay.
now it's a.
You really don't like the prequels, do you?
I haven't done any of the prequels yet. Then it's
Okay. Can I guess then what your number 7 will be? I'll guess that your number 7 will be Phantom Menace.
No,
Am I right?
Revenge of the
No.
Sith.
Oh.
Revenge of the Sith.
Oh.
Because it is a better
Oh.
movie. It's got more. Again, it's more sort of conclusion. It's the least crappy of the prequels.
Okay.
So then this gives me.
I know where you're gonna go. I know.
And
I
then
know
so
what
so
your
then
next two are
Phantom
gonna be.
Menace is next. So Phantom Menace is right below that, and then Attack of the
Okay.
Clones. And
So
then
this is so strange,
I think
David.
Rogue One
we
is
both
the last
agree.
one because, and I'll tell you why. Because the anger that I have towards that movie has grown since I've seen it twice. Of like what the wasted opportunity of the movie was, and how
Okay.
it was poorly made. Whereas Attack of the Clones, I'm literally talking about meh. I'm meh. I'm not mad
You're
at
meh.
it. Whereas Rogue One, I'm kind of meh. So I think that's why they're probably about of equal quality, but Rogue One gives me a little more tinge of.
Okay, for some reason, you and I agree on the best and worst of the franchise, but it goes horribly wrong in the middle.
Yeah, well, I happen to be right, so there you go.
I don't know. I think we both like pie. We just don't like our fillings.
No,
You know, like it's like I like pecan pie and you like cherry pie.
no,
guess
I
that's the
like
way it is.
I love a pecan pie.
I bought pecan pie for Christmas, so I also got a fantastic roast.
So there goes our list. Okay, now we officially hate each other. Should we get in a duel?
Well, I
or
think
something?
I don't hate you, David. I think there's something wrong with you. I think
Oh, there's a
that
ton
you,
wrong with me.
I think you have been driven to the dark side of the Force, and not
dark
even
side?
Ray can bring you back. Now, I looked at a ton of YouTube videos, of which I will present you a montage for this production of some of the more humorous highlights of what all these people were talking about. And my God, it's such an enormous swatch of different kinds of people, all races, all creeds, all colors, both genders, and they're all going off about how they hate the movie, and they are even angrier than I am. I mean, I gave myself 2 days. It's a good thing that you said, let's wait till Tuesday to do this, because I felt like I was a boiling pot of soup, and somebody turned off the heat, took me off the burner, and I'm fine. And now I'm getting angry again talking about it. I'm just getting
Yeah, I know,
fucking angry.
You're reliving
This-
the trauma.
Now you can. I know you are looking at this from the point of view of history. You're thinking about history right now. You're thinking about, wait a minute, let's take Star Wars and totally turn it on its ear and fuck with the fans and fuck with the Lucas worship or anything like that. You know, I spent $65 for tickets for this in an RPX theater. I got great seats, beautiful presentation. The screen was enormous, great sound, wonderful sound. Wonderful. A lot of things about this movie that are good are the technical element. They really combined it. We talked a couple of days ago about how they combined film and high definition.
Yeah, it was shot on.
It was seamless. It was gorgeous to look at.
Shot on film.
Wonderful.
I mean, I waited till the credits. It was shot on film. I'm going to assume some of the special effects were digital. I'm also going to assume, since this is a top production, it probably wasn't one of those things where they do the final master in 2K and then you see it in 4K, but it's really just upscaled. I'm going to assume the whole thing was 4K or maybe even 6K.
We saw a wonderful image.
I saw it in the Dolby Cinema.
Well.
I also had a great presentation. I saw it at Dolby Cinema, but I got my ticket like a week and a day ahead, and I could still only get a seat that was like 2/3 of the way up on the very right side of the screen. It was the Dolby Cinema, and I actually looked at the thing. It says occupancy like 217, and a whole big, and it's a huge ass screen. So this is huge ass seats. Yeah. And of course, I go in. This is after the movie has started. There's all these little open seats like in the middle. They fucked up my shit because now I can't get a good seat because you're not going to show up. You probably paid for a ticket and didn't show up. It's like I got it. Like I have a frequent.
Well, I don't know if they paid. If they pay for the great thing about it is you buy your tickets in advance. You can show up any old time you want because those are your seats. So we got there.
Yeah, but it's like after the movie starts, of like I could have bought if they weren't going to show up, I could have bought that seat that was way closer to the center of the screen. I was off to the right, and then of course my roomie, who I actually bought his ticket, he was even more. He was right on the aisle, on the very right, kind of looking in a weird angle. I still loved it, but
I'm actually glad that we got the seats we got. We were in like row J, which was I guess 4 or 5 rows back from where I usually sit. But it was such a big screen that it was wonderful. There was no unobstructed view. We weren't like all the way in the front like a lot of the poor bastards who bought their tickets late had to sit there and look up at this enormous screen and really can't see anything.
I want to take issue with what you said. You were kind of like half right about me with the history and everything. My thought is that I feel like in order to save Star Wars, they needed to kill Star Wars. In order to save it, they need to kill it. Because we can't just keep redoing the same fucking Star Wars over and over again. It certainly had Star Warsy elements.
Between you and me, we had good ideas.
Yeah.
You know, and we're too. I mean, I'm a little closer to filmmaking than you are.
Yeah.
But you come up with a good idea. I come up with a good idea. Let me just talk about some of the elements that some of the fans were really pissed off about.
Okay.
And you can answer those one by one.
All right.
Dropped subplots from Force Awakens. Everything about Force Awakens was completely forgotten for this movie. It starts off like with a clean slate of the Resistance having a scattered handful of people against an enormous First Order, which is the Empire. We might as well just call it the Empire. And the second element was the dropped characters, how they killed Snoke after creating such a really delicious character that could be evil. And also Captain Phasma, or whatever, who's Finn's boss.
Yeah.
They had touted her as the next Boba Fett. Kathleen Kennedy is on record saying that Phasma was going to be the next Boba Fett, and they wind up killing her. Seemingly, we assume anyway, in the same kind of bullshit pussy way that Boba Fett died in Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, you get to see literally you get to see her humanity for like 5 seconds when they show the eye.
Yeah, they show her eye,
and that's one of the elements where I'm like, I don't know, but
how come Snoke didn't see it coming? How come Snoke didn't see it?
He was too busy being a douche, and he was too busy. I mean, remember, it's not the Force ain't perfect.
He was soaking in his douchiness.
Yes. And I think that's the great thing about that whole Snoke thing. And this, I don't know if this was an intentional plan of, because they probably had the sort of the larger plan over at Lucasfilm of like, okay, we want this to happen, we want this to happen, and we want this to happen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that the whole Snoke thing was planned somewhere to do it somewhere. And I think that what happened was,
I don't know how couldn't he see that the lightsaber was turning slowly?
There's a larger.
This is why I fight your assumption.
I gotta see this again.
It's turning, and they have a couple of cuts to it.
Well, I know
turning
they have a
slowly.
couple cuts to it.
Now, this is why I disagree with you about Ren. I think Ren is extremely troubled, and he's easily manipulated because she was reaching him for a minute. She really was.
But he made his choice.
And he fights with her for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then suddenly says, wait a minute, no, I want you over here. And she's like, wait a minute, no, I want you over here. No, you should come over here. No,
He
you should
wants
come over
her
here.
to join him on the dark side, and we'll get shit done. But
I have to
she's
say,
like, no.
the Snoke visual effect is fantastic. They have really done a fantastic job, finally, with rendering these CGI images.
Well, see,
Snoke is fantastic.
I think that the reason
he looks great.
the reason they killed Snoke was it was the classic, because there's been so many.
Doesn't he look almost real though? When you're looking at him, he looks real.
He did. There were so many different theories about Snoke and who he was, because it had been set up of like Snoke had come in and seduced him, that they don't really explain where he came from or who he is. I think that was intentional. I think it was.
You know what I always thought? My guess about Snoke was that he was some kind of reincarnated or repaired version of the Emperor.
No,
I thought that
He's
he was.
not.
I thought that he was related to the Emperor in some way.
It was a misdirect. It was.
But now we have
this
nothing.
is our
We
bad
have
guy. Oh no, he isn't. Pshwing, he's done. And then you have
Sliced in
those
half.
things all through the movie. You have her showing up with the lightsaber because everybody was like, what's he gonna do with that lightsaber? He showed up with the light. She showed up with the lightsaber. What's he gonna do? He just goes, Ping!
Yeah.
Genius. At the very beginning of the movie, when they go on, when they're on the First Order ship, and they have sort of the really snotty First Order officer standing next to Hux. It's Adrian Edmondson from The Young Ones.
Then you got to say in 10 words what cornflakes mean to you. So I put cornflakes, 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 cornflakes.
Pathetic. You never win, Vivian.
Why not?
There's only 9 words.
Cornflakes.
Anyway, you'll still never win because nothing interesting ever happens to us.
Stop being so boring, Rick.
Right.
I recognized him immediately, and I leaned over to my roommate and said, that's Adrian from The Young Ones. He's like, what? I don't think he's seen The Young Ones. That's probably why.
I'm surprised Bronwyn didn't notice because she's the big Young Ones fan.
I mean,
around
he's
here.
ob-
She
it's
actually has
obviously
those episodes on tape.
And I'm just
too.
hoping one day when my brother ever actually watches this, he doesn't like watch movies unless you like ever.
Okay, another thing that a lot of people were pissed off about was Admiral Akbar's death. It was off screen, nothing.
You're right.
There was, Admiral Akbar was on that ship. Oh, and he was like probably being thrust out into space in a fiery explosion, screaming, "It's a trap!
It's a trap!" The funny thing is,
Laura-
one of the ships was named after remember, because in Rogue One there was another sort of Admiral Akbar looking dude, except he was-
Calamari Man, yes.
Yeah, calamari, but he was kind of bluish, and I can't remember his name. But the ship that got blown up in this was actually named after that guy.
Oh, okay.
Can't remember the name of the ship on top of my head, but it was.
Yeah, I think one of the continuity people were like, we better have some semblance of continuity in this. So let's.
And
name it
I
after
didn't
this
realize
dude.
that was Admiral Akbar until they mentioned. I'm like, oh, that's a calamari looking guy, but he didn't really do anything. He just was sort of there in the background. He didn't really like have an
he was
Akbar
chilling.
moment. He was in Force Awakens. He actually had an Akbar moment before he was basically showing another Death Star. We have another Death Star here.
Okay, Laura Dern is a cockblock. Now I wrote this because I came up with the, watching all of the reviews. The big thing about this is all of this is stretched for time, and it really just has to do with Laura Dern's character, who plays a vice admiral, probably second in command to General Leia, Princess General Leia Organa, which makes no sense. And she has a plan, and she's not telling anybody, which leads to everything that Poe and Finn come up with these ideas. She's not going to tell us anything.
Well, it's Poe's fault.
Let's
that
go
they,
find
that
a
they
code
didn't-
breaker.
I mean, at the beginning of the movie, it's pretty much Poe's fault that they lose as many people as they do, because it was get in, do your thing, and let us do our thing and escape. But he's like, no, we can blow up this ship. And then he does all this other stuff that basically endangers the lives.
Yeah, but a good leader tells people what they have in mind rather than keeping a secret and being as smug as she was. I mean, another review, which is a little bit, I would say, right-leaning, definitely right-leaning, was this young man, this young black man, I might say, who says that basically this Last Jedi just might as well be subtitled "Only Strong Women." So it's like strong women in command all the time throughout this whole thing.
She had a reason to not tell him, which was, it goes back to what I just said.
She doesn't like him.
She didn't like him because he'd already been. She explains, you've been demoted. It's a need to know basis, and you don't need to know you've been demoted because you.
Even though you're kind of a hero and you really helped us out in the previous movie.
He killed a whole bunch of people with his roguishness. They could have just escaped, but no, he had to go in there and do more. So then they had to fight more, and they lost a bunch of people because of it. That's why she didn't tell him.
I think when the stakes are against it, when the stakes are against you, and you're down to a handful of people, try to give people an idea that you're gonna try and save the situation rather than deceive them and cause them to almost mutiny against you. I mean, that's what happened. He led a mutiny against them. He gets. Oh, I was about to say phasered.
He gets stunned.
He gets stunned.
Yeah.
Set for stun. And they give you the old stun effect, which I thought was cute.
And that reminds me of another. It's like all the weird sort of cutesy moments that you don't like. I'm like, I loved them. You have all the BB-8 moments.
BB-8 is probably the one character, other than Rey. There's a little bit of a backlash against Rey too. They don't like a lot of what she did, but I think BB-8 and Rey are the only ones that emerge unscathed from this whole process. Finn goes off with chubby Asian mechanic chick, and they go to some kind of planet it seems to be a casino, and I thought that was lame too.
That's what my advice. As soon as they start to go off to that planet, go take a pee. Maybe even take a number 2 if you have time. Go take a good 10 minutes, and you'll be fine. That's what I did. I got up and peed. It was the perfect time to go pee. My roomie explained what happened. So, yeah, the
I didn't have to go. We didn't have to go at all. Not one pee break between all of us.
It's a long ass movie.
It is a really long. That's another thing.
It could have been if you'd have trimmed it, like strategic trimming of like maybe 10, 15 minutes. It would have run a little better. Other than that, I was fine. It's like I missed like half of the part, and then you have like a big action sequence where they run them, and then
Well, what did you think of Luke's behavior throughout this episode? I thought go ahead.
You want my opinion? Okay, he's reacting because remember last time we saw Luke, he saved the universe. He's killed his father. Remember, he's walking around with trauma. He just killed his father. It's a very sort of Freudian. Oedipal kind of thing right there. He's almost had sex with his sister.
Yeah. But then he comes very close to killing his own nephew.
Yeah, and that's the whole other thing where so he's trying to rebuild. This is something that one knock I have against it. You should have explained more about what was going on after. Like they kind of allude to it, but it's almost like there's this opportunity to make another movie or like sell us a book of like what really happened. I'm like, I don't like that. Like put it all in the movie.
Well, maybe we'll have a Rogue One type movie with Luke.
So
because I want to know a little bit more about that. Yeah, we don't get the information.
He is,
and I would have liked to have had that.
And he explains it. They explain it kind of in the flashbacks of, and it's kind of like Rashomon, where it's the two different points of view or many different points of view of the same.
Just the two. Yeah,
just the two in this case.
Luke sensing evil in Ren.
Yeah.
And then there's Ren sensing that Luke senses evil in him.
He started off so optimistic. After coming off of killing his father, he's like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to restore.
But the thing is, he was happy at the end of Jedi. He's looking at they're all dead. They're all floaty, spacey, the spaced out
but this is exactly
things.
why I like
We see Hayden Christensen there. He's no longer...
This is why I like this movie, because if you let me explain. He's coming off of that.
You're wrong, by the way. But go ahead.
He's triumphed. Now he's like, okay, obviously I've made the right choice. So I am smart and I know what I'm doing. So now I'm going to go off and I'm going to reestablish the Jedi Order like my father. And then I'm going to train, and I can sense that my nephew is strong with the Force. And he starts to train him, and he realizes he senses the darkness in him. And so if he trains him, he's only going to make him more powerful and strong. And then he's like, I can end this now. And he was conflicted about it. He's like, and he said, like, it was a very fleeting moment, and then he stopped immediately. But of course, Ren misinterpreted him as about to kill him, which he was, but he wasn't. Haven't you ever had the initial thought to smack the shit out of somebody, and then you go, no, I can't do that? It's like that.
I'm a father, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, no, that's not what I do. Well, that's what he did. He's like, I got to do something, but and then he realizes, no, but this isn't the answer. Of course, Ren misinterprets it. It all goes to shit. Ren takes off. But he did say that like he had sensed that Snoke had gotten to him, almost as if Snoke had been part of the rebuilding of maybe he knew Snoke somewhere. Like maybe Luke knew Snoke somewhere. I don't know. it's all gone to shit, and he's like, fuck, okay, if I leave, if I escape, and I don't train him, and I hide, if I pull a Yoda or an Obi-Wan like they do, I will be able to, maybe he won't get trained enough and he won't be able to, I don't know, maybe he just ran away, which I don't think he should have done. But that whole situation creates a bitter, worn out, angry, disillusioned. He's disillusioned with everything. So that's why he's become Clint Eastwood. In fact, I just realized this. He is, for all intents and purposes, he is Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino.
Okay.
He's off. He's pissed. He doesn't want to deal with people. And then at the very end of his life, he redeems himself.
He never struck me as somebody who needed redemption. He's a hero. He's a hero in the way that Obi-Wan was a hero. Obi-Wan had to deal with a lot of horrible shit, you know, before A New Hope and after Revenge of the Sith.
He kind of does an Obi-Wan at the end.
But Obi-Wan is there. What happened to Obi-Wan when he says, I need your help, Luke. She needs your help. I'm getting too old for this sort of thing. He's there to help, no matter what. But you know, Luke obviously hasn't learned these lessons. He doesn't learn that people need him.
Well, remember,
he just wants to stay where he is.
You got to remember this. Deep down, Luke is a whiny bitch. You go back to the
Luke is a
original
whiny,
Star Wars,
but so is Obi-Wan. Remember young Obi-Wan? He was a stubborn, obstinate little prick for a little while until Qui-Gon died, and he had to get a kick in the ass to say, okay, all right, I've got to train this kid. And he failed. He failed.
Oh, yeah.
And Luke failed, too.
Luke failed.
But Obi-Wan has more dignity, and he understands his place.
Which gets to Luke's point and my point about how, in order to save it, it needs to die.
And Kylo Ren will never be Darth Vader. I mean, Anakin turning into Darth Vader was
he's
the
a
absolute.
wannabe. He realizes all this Jedi stuff, all of this, everything that we've been doing, the way we've been doing it, it's this weird dysfunctional cycle of battles.
Oh God! Now we're gonna get into the shit I really hate, which is Luke's assessment of what Jedis are.
They're full of themselves.
I don't know that. They might be full of themselves, but the thing is, they were the elite guard, and elite in a different connotation, not elite as in I'm better than you because I'm this. Mm-hmm. It's elite as in we have a skill and we protect, and this is our lot in life. This is what we are.
Well,
we're knights.
I think that he's half right. I don't think necessarily like the idea of having Force people be guardians of like the Force and everything. But I do think that the Jedi, the Skywalker line needs to end because the Skywalker line begins with his father, as far as we know. And his father is supposedly a almost Christ-like or antichrist. He was created by the Force. And we still don't know who created him. And we think it was Darth Plagueis the Wise, who, by the way, is mentioned somewhere in there. Somebody does mention Darth Plagueis. I can't remember in what context. But Darth Plagueis the Wise, as Palpatine said, he could create matter. He could use the Force and created. So Darth Plagueis, as far as we know, Darth Plagueis the Wise created Anakin Skywalker, who then had children. And then who's to say that whoever was behind, maybe it wasn't Darth Plagueis, whoever was behind creating Anakin isn't really behind this whole thing and was there the whole time. And obviously wasn't Snoke because he's gone. Unless he comes back in some weird way, which he could. Because
but then that turns into a kind of sins of the father thing where people don't change, and that's not true either because
that's why
Darth Vader does become Anakin Skywalker at the end of Jedi.
To die, and that's why Kylo Ren needs to die. There is no redemption for Kylo Ren. They all need to die. They all need to die.
I'm going to be like Luke here in this situation and sense the good in Kylo Ren. I think Kylo Ren is conflicted, and he does a very good job of being... He does a much better... Actually, I'll say this actor, Adam Driver, I believe is his name? Adam Driver, something like that. He's much better at portraying the conflict than Hayden Christensen was. Hayden Christensen, not as good an actor.
Again, I blame Lucas with the direction on that one because he's actually a really good actor. He's been good he's just really good in this movie called I think like Broken Glass or Shattered Glass, where he plays a reporter that like faked everything. I feel like what I got from the movie was, you think you know Star Wars? Fuck you.
All I wanna do is have a good time. Now I'm blue.
We're gonna do Star Wars different now because you had your Star Wars, you had your prequels. It's time to do something different.
I will agree with you with the fuck you. because definitely this is a definite fuck you to Lucas.
You want boogaloo, run down the trails.
And his midi-chlorians and his stories of fantasy, you know, and the
It
bad
needs
guys
to be
being
something
defeated.
different. It needs
and
to be something
rescuing
different.
people.
We're
What was? But
we're in
think
a
about
different
it.
time.
Think about all of
different
the
audience.
acrobatics, the narrative acrobatics that you just described to me.
Yeah.
It makes it way more complicated than it should be.
It isn't
Star Wars was a
complicated.
very simple story. Star Wars was a very simple story. It was about a princess who had plans to an ultimate killing machine. She gets sidelined and rescued by a kid and a fucking criminal, and they all kind of join her. They're swept up in her bravery, and they wind up becoming better people knowing her. And so much that hinges on this. There's so much more that hinges on that element. That makes her the catalyst for everything that occurs.
Well,
and it's such a fantastic, even, you know, I mean, that's why.
It's like, if you're gonna
Where
do,
did I put-
it's like if you're
I
gonna
forget
do
where I
new.
put it.
Okay, it's 2012. You're like, okay, we've got the rights. We want to do new Star Wars movies. Where we obviously can't do it with these old farts for very long. Anyway, we're not just gonna recycle and have like new adventures with these old people. We're gonna have to bring them in so we can kill them off.
That was my issue. I thought you can do this, but do it 5 years after, or maybe 2 years after.
Well,
you know,
it's
like
too late for
let's
that
say
now.
It could have been 5 years after Sith ended, or maybe 2 years after Sith, or 3 years after Sith ended. You could have involved them more. I feel like they were like, well, I know Hamill was excited about doing it, and then after he read the script, how do you explain that? How do you explain Hamill's reaction to the script? He said, "You've done everything wrong with my game." And it's like, I feel like the director even inserted Hamill's own lines, you know, what he said to this guy into his dialogue. He says, "Everything you've said is wrong." You know, he says it twice. He says it to Rey, and then he says it to Ren. And I feel like the director was like, "All right, fuck you, Hamill. I'm going to just write what you told me about my
Well,
script."
He also has a line that says, "It's not going to happen the way you think it is."
Oh, yeah.
And that's
that's
the way I felt
the
about it.
director
I'm like,
responding to Hamill. That's the director saying, "Oh yeah, Hamill, it's not going to happen how you think it is."
but that's what I liked that they mixed it up. I liked that they did something different. It wasn't too different.
I feel that you need heroes and you need villains, and what makes Star Wars special is the Jedi, and he's telling us it doesn't matter. And I think that is the ultimate insult when it comes to this
because
movie.
if it kept going and you kept recycling these ideas, you end up with Pirates of the Caribbean 8. You end up with just another lumpy Star Wars adventure. You end up with Rogue One. You end up with, well, it's got some Star Wars elements and there's some cool stuff in here, and then there's a few winks and nods. You know what? They'll do 9. Hopefully they'll take a break. They're going to do a couple more. They're going to do they're doing the Han Solo movie that's in the can and that's going to come out.
And they're doing it quicker. They're doing it quicker in a quicker amount of time than Lucas did. Lucas did it every 3 years. They're doing it every 2 years for the main movies,
and then they're doing
and
these
then
sort of
adding
side
a Star
projects.
Wars stories in between.
I think that then there's going to be
They'll stop when they run out of, you know,
when people stop going.
When people stop going, yeah.
I mean, you could kind of like have sort of the James Bond sort of idea of some of them are good, some of them are meh, but you always get a certain level of quality, even the ones you don't like, and you always know, you know what, I don't particularly like this one. There'll be a new one coming out, and it'll be great.
To get into my thoughts about it, I thought the movie, and I took some of my notes from our conversation with you.
Yeah.
I said I thought the movie was a complete bore after the first half, which is mainly the back and forth with Rey and Luke. And Poe locking horns with Leia and Laura Dern was a snooze. Now, I will say, I really loved when Yoda showed up. I thought it was wonderful, and
Yeah,
I almost got a little, verklempt seeing Yoda, and I thought it was a great effect. By the way, a lot of people had problems with
warning
him.
of like, did I just see what I saw? Because they pan over, you just see like top of his head and like an ear as it goes over, and I'm like, and
well, I
had
knew
a-
because
I
they
had a very
started
cold
his
hit.
theme. They started his theme when we saw his ear. You started to hear na, 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 na,
yeah.
na, na, na,
And it looks
na,
like
I thought that was great. And also the way Yoda was written was exactly how he should have been written. He was very much his Empire Yoda, which was he was a
Drunk.
pain in the ass. He was a troublemaker, and he was
drunk.
starting shit with Luke. And the thing is, why does Yoda has this wisdom that apparently Luke doesn't in his old age?
No.
he has this wonderful, and I felt this was the movie that I wanted to see. I wanted to see something like this. I'm glad they finally acknowledged Yoda and give him his little blue halo, and they did such a great job with the effect. And
well, the puppet, it looked to
they
me,
used the puppet. They did use a puppet.
It looked like the original puppet that had been sitting in a warehouse for 30 years and was slightly scrunched up. It was slightly scrunched. I mean, he's already a scrunchy looking dude.
I think they used the puppet, and then they kind of like did a little
Tweak.
manipulation.
It certainly wasn't the Phantom Menace puppet that didn't look right.
No. Ooh, that Phantom Menace puppet was terrible.
My guess is maybe they had to have the original mold and then remade it from the original mold so they could have something they could work with. Because I'm sure that thing that they have like in the Lucasfilm Museum is probably unusable because it's rubber. It's like foam. It probably deteriorated.
Probably rotted.
Yeah.
I did not like Benicio del Toro. You know, my wife was like,
he was wasted,
poking me in the arm, going, "It's Benicio del Toro," and I said, "Yeah, he'll flip you for real," and he was like stuttering or something. You give him a stutter.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
And the whole thing, I know what they were attempting with that. He was to be the Lando Calrissian of this movie, to betray them in some way. But of course, he has. It's not that he's a bad guy or a good guy. He's just one of these guys, like, whatever. You call yourself a Democrat, they call themselves a Republican.
See,
I work for them right now. I'll work for you next week.
Cross promotion with Guardians of the Galaxy and have it be played by the Jeff Goldblum character from Thor. That would have been funny. By the way, that's a movie. I mean, I know we're talking about Star Wars, but that's a movie you really need to see because it's great.
I think it was intended to be a placeholder movie, and I hope that the next Star Wars movie will be the best movie ever made, and it better be, or otherwise I'm going to be really angry. I'm going to have to trash the theater.
I think they're going to take these sort of arguments of other people that don't like it, and they're going to take it to heart, and I think they're going to go safe, and I think it's got J.J. Abrams is doing it, and yeah. I think they're going to go like Return of the Jedi and just go completely safe and on a kind of somewhat bland, somewhat interesting, somewhat like meh. It'll sort of end on a somewhat clunky note like Return of the Jedi did.
Well, I think as with the first movie, Daisy Ridley remains the best thing about this new franchise.
She is great.
But the movie was lacking Han Solo. It had none of his sarcasm or his smartassery.
But you had Luke. You had a pissed off Luke. That was.
But Luke is not a source of humor. Luke is kind of like, I'm serious. I'm serious about what I'm doing. Han Solo is like, he's the guy who says, "You're going to die here." Convenient. Like he's the guy who has the wisecracks. He has to be the wise. There's no wise asses in this movie. I mean, it's like, yeah, there's some humor in there, and some of it is not. It's misplaced, and a lot of it isn't funny. There's a couple of gags in there, and it's like it's just lacking Harrison Ford's sarcasm, and it really needs it. The movie kind of disappears up its own ass. They take it so seriously. What they're doing when what you should be doing is having a little fun. And I felt like J.J. Abrams did that best with The Force Awakens. He put a lot of humor in there, and it was actually good humor. And it was kind of like, hey, we're having fun here. Let's have some fun. Instead, I
laughed a lot in this movie. I mean, at the end when Luke kind of did his force projection, and it took me a while to realize what they did. I had to think about it, and I was like, oh, that's why.
That got an applause. In the theater that I was in, when it was revealed that he was a projection, everybody applauded.
Yeah, I think there was a little applause. We're a little more polite here. Of like, there were only a little bit of applause.
But the audience reaction to this movie was hysterical because there's a couple of moments in there where people were just. I was listening. I heard whispers, like when Leia does when we think she's dead.
Oh yeah,
she's out in space. She comes alive. Her fingers wiggle, and then she starts redirecting herself to the door.
Yeah.
So she's floating in this weird halo Tinkerbell effect. There was a guy right behind me going, "What the fuck?"
Well, did you notice when they did the zoom in on her face, because it was such obviously a special effect? It looked like they took the Rogue One Leia and just aged her up a little bit because she looked a little too young and pretty, and I think
then you know what that means.
Was a little pulled back and a little chiseled there.
But you know what that means then? They reshot it. They did a little bit of trickery.
I'm going to guess that since it was a special effect thing, they were probably going to do that in post, and they didn't have her to do it in post.
Yeah.
So they just had to like create something.
So they got the very beautiful woman who played Leia, probably doing her face or something like that, who looks nothing like Leia, by the way. Maybe I'll throw a picture in of the actual actress. She looks nothing like Carrie Fisher. Mm-hmm. She's a blonde with kind of an overbite, which is a bit much, I mean, she's pretty and all, but she has an overbite. But okay, there was the scene, the Asian chick when we think that she just died after she kisses Finn. A bunch of people laughed. It was like they were laughing. They were like, yeah, come on. They didn't like the forced romance, especially that it looks like she fell in love with Finn in 12 hours, which is record time. My wife didn't even fall in love with me in 12 hours. We knew each other for months before we started
You had to wear her
dating.
down.
Well, I had to wear it. Well, of course, yeah. but she couldn't bear to let a gorgeous guy like me out of her sight.
Yeah.
And then there was some laughing. There was some nice laughter, actually. Nice laughter with the movie for Yoda. He was playing what he should have been playing.
Well, did you notice that, like, okay, so Yoda like burns down the temple or whatever with the books in it.
Yeah, he doesn't give a
supposedly?
rat's ass. He's like, oh, what? You think this is so special? Oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
But that's Yoda. I believe in that fuck you. I don't believe in the fuck you that says, you know what? You and your $500 billion, fuck you.
Have a dance or two. Ooh, you're breaking my heart. You're tearing it apart.
We don't care. You know.
But Rey saved the books.
Well,
Rey-
she saved. Yeah, she's
Rey
got like
saved
her
the
own
books,
little.
so that those are going to come into play, I'm sure, unless they fuck with us again. See, they gave us such a misdirection of, oh, you thought this is where it's going to go? Oh no, here, boop, boop, dead, lightsaber gone. It's not. You're not getting. I'm sure we're going to find out in.
But
here's what we need to find out in 9. We need to find out why all these things were found, like Darth Vader's helmet, Luke Skywalker's lightsaber.
Well, somebody sorted through the burning
Yeah, but
stuff
who,
on the
who
Ewok
made
planet.
sure that these things were there so they could be found? Somebody is in charge of a larger picture.
Oh,
that we
you know
don't
what?
know
I
what it is.
think you're getting into what you would like to see for Episode 9.
Pretty much, yeah. But I feel like it's going to get explained. And if I see episode 9,
you
stuff
hope
isn't
it
explained-
is.
If I see episode 9 and some stuff isn't explained, then I'll be pissed. But this is
Okay, now, well, I want to ask you now, can we talk a little bit about the politics of the movie? It seems like there's a lot of socialism and New World liberal politics, New World Order liberal
notice
politics, globalism, and everything. It's, yeah, because Luke tells Rey that being a Jedi is nothing special because everybody's a Jedi, therefore everybody's special. The Force has become a MacGuffin. We see a lot of this animal rights kind of bullshit with the Asian chick trying to set people free. Rich people are evil. Arms dealers are evil. Just everybody's evil who isn't all about hope. And also the message is hope, 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 hope. My God, you should drink every time someone says hope in this movie. And I think they did it to kind of, that's a fuck you moment to people who didn't like the ending of Rogue One, where her line was hope.
I liked
felt
the
like it
ending
was
of Rogue One. I thought the ending of Rogue One was good.
It would have been good if it were Carrie Fisher in 1977
Yeah.
saying the words, but an alternate take would have been awesome if they had done that rather than hire an actress. I feel like this is Hollywood now. This is where we are. And, I was grateful, even though you told me that there was going to be some kind of a gay subplot.
I didn't tell you anything about that.
No, you did. You said, I heard that Poe and Finn are going to get together as a couple. And I'm like, fuck you.
I didn't say
And I'm
that.
sorry. It's not that. No, you did. You totally did. You said it last year or right after we did our Rogue One thing. No, it's in the Rogue One episode. You're like, oh, fuck you. If that's true, that happens. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I was talking to Bronwyn, and she's like, because I really wanted to see Rey and Finn get together. And I was really finally gratified when they hugged at the end of the movie because they were not together. And when you separate these characters, it's just not as strong. I mean, like, Leia and Han can carry their plot in Empire, and Luke can carry his plot. I felt like we were more invested in that. With this one, it was a little more clumsy because Finn's off with Asian chick messing up casinos and trying to get a code breaker while Poe is dealing with Laura Dern and Carrie Fisher, who refused to tell him their plan and cause him to create this whole idea of code breaking and all that stuff. And then you have Rey. Rey off with Luke Skywalker was probably, I don't know if you agree with me on this, Rey training with Luke, or the quote-unquote training that she was doing, was probably the strongest part of the movie for me.
I would say.
Was it that way with you?
I like the space battles too. I mean, they're always.
I wanted a little bit more. I wanted to see a little more training and less of this, I'm not training you bullshit.
She almost doesn't need training. She's super powerful already, and Luke senses it.
Oh, and why did Luke say, where's Han? I mean, Leia knew that Han was dead immediately when it happened. She got like a
think it's
pain in
because
her chest.
he's so far away. I mean, she was.
Wait, he can astral project himself, but he's too far away.
Well, no, but if you understand how the Force works, I sort of understand.
Why didn't they cut to
in
Luke?
the
They
Force
should have cut to
Awakens,
Luke. He
in
should
the
have
Force
known.
Awakens, he dies on that sort of planet. He gets like killed. She's relatively close.
gets
in proximity
impaled by
to
his
him
own
when that.
son.
She's close, relatively close in proximity when that happens. Then you have Luke. When that happens, he's way far away. So it might have taken a while for it to get to him.
So Luke needed better Force Wi-Fi service to be able
Could
to detect
be.
when
I mean, to
This
be
is
able
somebody
to,
close to him.
Like, if he had been, say, he had been like really close to that planet, like that they were fighting on, and he'd astral projected, it might not have wiped him out. But he was so far; he's literally like halfway across the galaxy doing that.
I want to bring this up because everybody's pissed off at Disney about this, and we talked about this last night. This is a very important point. Disney does not have creative power or creative control over this franchise. Lucasfilm does.
Yeah, exactly.
Lucasfilm owns this property.
I told you we were talking about this before. It's like Pixar. It's like Disney owns it, but they run their own company and they do it, and Disney doesn't mind because it makes them money.
It makes
If
them
they weren't
money.
making money, they might have a little more editorial. It's like, and Marvel, they let Marvel run their own company too.
Yeah, because they know, let the people who are in charge of it deal with it. We'll count the money,
Yeah,
and
we'll
you
give them
do the
money,
work.
and then we'll get back a whole bunch more money.
So Disney isn't really responsible for this, and people need to understand that right away. They really do. It was Lucasfilm's decision. They approved the script. They approved the director. They do all the hiring and firing. They fired people in the past before, right? Didn't they fire directors from this project?
From this
Or
project,
am I
From
misremembering?
episode 9, they fired Colin Trevorrow.
Right. Okay. And
From,
but there
I
were
think
two
that was
directors.
Lucasfilm that did it.
Weren't there two directors who were fired?
There were two
from a
directors on the
previous-
Han Solo movie.
Right.
Where
right,
they were
right.
pretty much almost done making the movie, and then they
Right.
kept looking at the data. They were trying to turn it
These-
into more
yeah,
of a
these-
comedy than they wanted.
Exactly. These decisions do not come down from Disney. They come down from Lucasfilm. They come down from Kathleen Kennedy, who is on the inside. She worked for George Lucas, and she worked mainly for Steven Spielberg. And she had a company with Frank Marshall, who also is at Lucasfilm, called Kennedy Marshall. They had their own production company. These people are skilled. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, and obviously they don't really seem to care about what George Lucas thinks.
Yeah,
They're
apparently
making
not.
their own stuff because George Lucas, when he originally sold it, he said, "Here are some ideas," and they used none of them.
Yeah.
The movies that he said he swore up and down he was not making, he actually had like full treatments for. So he's a liar.
Gotta find. I want to see what he had in mind.
Yeah.
Last Jedi is it's a rare misfire for me. I tend to enjoy them. This one was really kind of painful for me to watch. I found it unemotional in a strange way. Force Awakens was very emotional for me. The prequels were kind of a manufactured emotionalism because I don't think Lucas is a particularly emotional guy. Empire Strikes Back and Jedi were probably the most emotional for me of the franchise. Rogue One was quite emotional in that way because you had the father-daughter connection, and then you had the end, which was very devastating for me in that way.
Yeah, and
this movie felt a little bit. It didn't. There wasn't enough hugging. There should have been more hugging. That's why it was such a catharsis when they finally hug at the end. I'm like, finally. And I always saw them as a couple. I really did because I like them together. They're very good together. I don't like him with the Asian chick. I really don't. I don't know. What do you think?
What'll happen? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in episode 9. They sort of seem to hint that Rey is going to be with Poe because they kind of give each other a look there near the end.
Oh, I could have sworn they met in Force Awakens. Why were they introducing themselves here? I could have sworn they met.
I have to go back. I don't think that they actually met. I think it was they both Poe met Finn at the beginning and got him out because he needed a pilot.
Well, Poe and Finn were buddies.
And
they split up a little bit.
but like Poe was like.
Poe was around. He was hanging out on that planet wherever the
I think that
rebels were.
they both landed on that planet, but for some reason they just didn't bump into each other. And then she went off on the Millennium Falcon to look for Luke, and he went off to go in his ship and
you might be you might be
and
right
mess
about
things
that.
up. Yeah.
I'll look at it again when we're looking at the movies again for the new year.
Hey, can we talk about Disney?
Wait, can we talk about the instant cliche?
Sure.
The instant cliche is a cliche. It's been happening. I can't blame The Last Jedi for this because I've seen this in so many movies now. for the last 5 or 6 years. The dramatic earth-shaking moment underlined and heightened by slowing everything down to a crawl, cutting to various facial reactions, and then silence just before something terrible happens. In this movie, we see it 4 or 5 times. Have you noticed this?
Well, what parts are you referring to?
Right before there's a big explosion, before something tragic happens, we suddenly
what
slow
part,
everything
what
down.
specific part of the movie are you describing?
Okay, well, I'll give you an example of when Laura Dern decides to cut in the light speed so she can destroy that ship, and they do it.
Yeah.
But they do that so many times. So in this movie, I don't think they did it as much in Force Awakens, but I'm noticing this because I remember watching Kong Skull Island, Samuel L. Jackson, right before he bites it. Yeah. I noticed it in Wonder Woman, like several times. It just seems they seem to be doing this.
Wait a minute, Sam Jackson, doesn't he like start to say motherfucker, and then
I don't know. I don't know that he says.
And then
you motherfucking it. But it's like all slow. Everything is like slow motion now. We keep slowing everything down.
I hadn't noticed that, but now you're mentioning it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, you know,
well, now it's in your head. I've planted the seed of doubt.
Yeah.
So when you see it again, you'll be like, motherfucker. Just like Ving Rhames when he saw Bruce Willis in the car.
Yeah.
See, that would be a moment there where you would slow everything down to a crawl, and Ving Rhames and Bruce Willis lock eyes. And then Bruce Willis decides to hit the gas and try to run him over.
Now,
are
we going to talk about the hopefully one day, since Disney has now bought Fox and now they own the entire Star Wars trilogy in perpetuity and in every aspect, that we'll finally get our original cuts of the
original cuts of the Blu-rays?
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping, but that's especially for
they're
those,
going to.
Those 3 original. That's going to be sort of an.
So is it actually going to say that, like it did in the Simpsons episode? They predicted this in 1998.
Yeah.
Where it said 20th Century Fox, a Disney company. Do you think it's going to say Disney company at the bottom of that platform where the 20th Century Fox logo is?
I'm going to say no because, I mean, they own ABC. It doesn't say a Disney company on it. They own Lucasfilm. It doesn't say a Disney company on it. The Marvel, it doesn't say a Disney company on it.
When they own Miramax, it didn't say it either.
No.
At the bottom. Yeah, they're definitely going to do that. They're definitely going to release it now that they have that. It's going to be tough because
those original films, they went back to those original camera negatives and cut from that. So they're going to, I don't know where, they're going to basically have to.
Well, no.
They're going to have to reconstruct.
No, if you look at the despecialized edition, they found 70 millimeter prints of the original release.
I'm saying that those.
And they were able to do an incredible transfer to Blu-ray.
If you want to go a couple of generations later and clean it up from that, which I think we talked about this before, find the best print you can and then scan it and clean it up.
And if these fans could do an incredible release based from the 70 millimeter prints, then yeah, obviously.
Well, let's hope
they'll hire them. They'll be like, we understand you did the despecialized edition. We're not going to arrest you. We'd like to have your materials and release it ourselves, and we'll thank you in the end.
Probably, you know what? I'm going to guess
they'll be very happy to do that.
Now that they have full control of it, it gives them a couple of years. They wait for the home video release of episode 9, and then they release some sort of like omnibus box set. And they'll probably screw you over and say, you can only get the original cuts in the mega super box set that costs like $200 or something.
And they could do the holiday special too.
I'd probably sneak that in as an Easter egg. Yeah.
There's a way you can make a very good 4K or 6K scan of video prints, and how you do it is kind of the way they used to do old style video from motion picture, where they would telescene it. Mm-hmm. So they could actually telescene it to a 6K scanner and give it a very nice high-res look, and it'll look beautiful on Blu-ray. It is possible, yeah. And it's not even that much work.
Well, let's hope so.
You can do that right now. If you have a really good camera and a really good screen, you could do that right now.
All rights reserved.
All rights reserved. That's my idea, by the way. Guys, hire me. You really need me to write episode 9. You really do. Because I think this director wanted to remake Kill Bill. I think that's what he was interested in, because there's so many concepts here that are taken from
nobody
Kill
got
Bill.
It's unlike the sort of the weird Lucas fetish. Nobody got their arm cut off. Nobody got their leg cut off or anything.
Yeah,
got like
actually,
cut
strangely enough, I don't think there was that much blood either.
No, I mean, there was a lot of. I mean, honestly, once you put teats in a movie, you're an automatic PG-13. You can't
really. I mean, like but they're not even real tits.
It doesn't matter.
You keep saying teats too.
Well, I mean,
like you grew up on a farm.
Cow. They look like they're cow, or I don't even know what they are.
Kylo Ren is not intimidating in this movie. He's less of a whiny brat, but he has no motivation for what he's doing.
No.
Princess General Leia Organa is a terrible leader. Under her leadership, the rebellion is decimated. Every decision she makes is a bad decision. She's the opposite of Samuel Adams.
I blame
even
drugs.
the last stand inside the mine. There are so people left. You can fit them in the Falcon. If it wasn't for Rey coming in at the last minute, that would have been it. That would have been the end of everything.
Moving rocks.
Moving rocks. Now, why didn't Kylo know that Luke was a projection? Answer that. Riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah, he should have known, because when I saw it in the theater, I'm like, wait a minute, and I thought I was being like super smart, and then I realized it was actually intended. He has shorter hair, and he has darker hair.
This is what I noticed.
He has dark. He has like sort of a just for men beard. He actually looks oddly like Chuck Norris in sort of the late '80s.
Yes,
with that beard. And
I turned to Bronwyn. And I said, "Oh, he got a haircut for his sister."
It's basically, this is how they remember him. It's his projection. His projection is slightly younger, and slightly more handsome, and slightly darker beard. And that's the funny thing of, like, he handed her. This is what I thought was great. He got that from the Millennium Falcon. Those are the dice that hang down in the Millennium Falcon, that you actually see him at the beginning in Star Wars when he says,
that's right, yeah.
When he's talking like, I made a lot of special modifications, and then
a lot of people don't realize that. Now, the first time we see the cockpit, Chewie is getting into it.
He's getting into it, and he bumps his head into those dice.
The dice are. I always thought that was a cute gag. It was like dice on the rear window, rear view mirror.
So when he first went into the Falcon and he had him, I went, oh, it's the dice. Kylo Ren is crazy. Kylo Ren is just he's all dark side, and he's all rage now. So of course he's not going to notice that he wasn't there. They should have noticed when they blow him up, and he just comes right out of it of like, look, you can be a Jedi, but you still have a physical body. So that was your clue right there when they tried to blow him up, and he came right out of it. I was like, wait a minute, that's not. He comes out, but you're so into it at the moment. At least I was. I didn't notice until the very end. And then you realize he's just doing some sort of weird astral projection, and I liked it. This is
the one of two force powers that were never discussed in previous movies. The first one was Leia floating through space and being able to not die, and the second one was Luke astral projecting himself. We'd never seen that before.
Well, see, they are both super powerful with the Force, I think.
I guess, but the thing is, it's kind of like, it doesn't feel particularly, I hate to use the word, and my daughter used it today, but canon. It doesn't feel canon to me. It feels like it was made up on the spot to cover for a couple of scripting problems.
Well, it kind of goes
I don't know. I don't understand why Luke did not show up himself.
It would have taken too long for him to get there.
And then he winds up dying. Now, this is my last points that I wanted to make. One of them was the death of Skywalker.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed in that. I didn't like that.
I thought he died just right.
I don't like him dying. I don't think he should have died that way. He should have died trying to fight instead of offering
in a larger picture, I would have recut the movie slightly had Leia die when she goes out there. This was an opportunity to kill her properly, and then you could,
I agree,
and then you could.
Completely.
Mark Hamill would certainly have come back for 9. Then you could have had him do some of the things that they wanted Leia to do, and then he could die in that one.
But your point, this is what you're pointing out. You're pointing out the flaw in the script right here. If Leia had died, actually properly died in this movie, the way it looked like she was going to die, that would have given Luke the impetus to actually show up and lead this rebellion, and then die in a more honorable capacity than just giving up the ghost as he did. Then you would have had to have rewritten quite a bit.
The thing is, he didn't die. He pulled an Obi-Wan Kenobi. He used
he pulled more of a Yoda, I think.
Yoda
peacefully dies.
He used all of his power. Now I can't speak to it. Did doing that kill him? I think it was, he said, you know what? I've done everything I can. It's time for me to go. I'm going to use what's left of my energy, join the Force, and become more powerful than anything. And that's what he did.
There was another element to the movie that I did enjoy quite a bit, other than the Yoda appearance, which was wonderful. I like the Force text messaging, Skyping that was going on between Kylo Ren and Rey.
Yes,
I thought that was fantastic.
And there was actually some comedy derived from that. Of could you put a shirt on? And he's like, no. And then he's
then-
all like, his muscles are all out.
And it seems like they're about to touch hands or some shit, and
Yeah.
Luke comes in and he's like, Uncle Cockblock, basically. Now, the thing that irritated me, and I don't think it's, I think it's going to be rectified for the final movie. There is some significance to Rey's parents. Otherwise, telling Rey that her parents were nothing and she thinks that they're nothing, I think there was something a little bit more to Rey's
I'm
background.
split on that. Of like, on the one hand, it could be that they're nobody, and then that just continues the theme of fuck you, or it could be a misdirection of her parents.
Yeah.
But I think I'm leaning towards the fuck you angle.
I'm not. I don't
because-
think they're going to let that stand.
It basically comes down to of whether the Empire is there, whether the Jedi are there. It doesn't matter. There is the Force. You can't stop it. Everybody, there's always going to be Force sensitive people, whether it's midichlorians or not.
I really hated that ending too, by the way.
And you
The
didn't
stupid
like
ending with the kid sweeping.
with the broom kid, as he's called now.
Broom kid.
Yeah, it's so different from what we've seen, but it's not like the sort of thing where they do something and it sucks because they didn't care. Maybe it sucks because they did care. Maybe they cared too much. I don't know.
They
You
care
didn't like
too
it.
much, damn it.
You didn't like it, but I liked it. And this kind of gets to
I
a
didn't
larger.
like it, and I consider myself a hardcore Star Trek. Sorry.
Yeah.
Fascinating, Captain.
Yeah,
May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper.
yeah. But I think that it comes down to.
I must be tired.
I think you are. It comes down to, and I have to go back to Star Trek now already. Of
Wait, Star
People-
Trek?
yeah, let me say
Okay.
this. I gotta say Shatner of get a life. Okay, it is just a movie. We're both two grown men in our mid 40s.
It's my life. I've seen it over 500
It's
times, and I
just-
managed to get married and have a child.
Yeah, but
But it's still my life.
we can enjoy it. It's like it could be good, it could not be good. Either way, it's not going to affect us in a larger sense. It is just a movie. There's going to be new movies. There's going to be new things that we're going to like. There's going to be new things that we don't like.
They're going to want my daughter growing up and spending money on this shit. I know it.
Maybe.
My daughter inherits all of this after I'm gone. She
Which is
inherits all my
exactly what-
movies
Which proves my point of, you know what?
and my
she
action
deserves
figures.
a different Star Wars than we got. Because we got our Star Wars, she gets hers. It's a different Star Wars. And then guess what?
Yeah,
Her kids get a
she-
different Star Wars. And then their kids get a different
She
Star
liked it. I just want to wait until she's 30 years old and looks at the movies again and says, "Wait a minute, Dad. Last Jedi did suck." So let's talk. Let's wrap this up. Again, really, still fucking pissed. Let's wrap this up. I will buy the Blu-ray, by the way. I'm not going to be one.
See,
A lot
that's
of
the
these people
thing
are
of-
like, a
You-
lot of
you
these
don't
people are
like
like,
it, but
I'm
you
not buying this. And some people even walked out. Some people even walked out of this movie, and I'm like,
They're
I paid
stupid.
$65. I'm not walking out. You know, I sat through Wild Orchid 2, Two Shades of Blue with a date just because I spent money for
no.
that ticket. Now let's wrap this up by hopes, expectations for episode 9.
I hope that some of our questions are answered about, okay, now obviously Snoke was a misdirect. So let's hope that there was an actual something behind this, because somebody is behind the First Order. Like somebody is behind. I'm going to throw this out here now. Either the Emperor or Darth Plagueis are going to come out of the woodwork and show themselves and say, I was behind the whole thing because I created Darth Vader. I created Luke Skywalker.
Okay,
I created
but
that
you
whole
say
thing.
you say Darth Plagueis. That's a Lucas construction, though, right?
Yeah.
That was from
So
his.
was Darth
thing.
Vader.
But I feel like it's like you said, a fuck you to Lucas in a way, and a fuck you to the fans. The people who made this whole thing possible are the fans. Let's not forget that.
Maybe
So
it's a big fuck you, and then no, you were right.
I mean, but the thing is, they have Han. They kill Han. They have Luke. They kill Luke. Leia is next. We know she's already gone
She's
anyway.
gone somehow.
Her days are
you know,
numbered.
I heard somebody talk about, in order to sort of honor her memory, recast it, and I'm like, no, they're not gonna. This isn't.
I
this
thought that
isn't-
okay. That can I say?
Yeah.
That got a couple of sniffles and applause at the end of the credits.
Yeah,
where it
in
said
memory of Carrie Fisher. I
in
I
memory.
applauded.
It
Everybody
said
applauded.
in memory of our princess Carrie Fisher, and people applauded. I applauded too, because I mean, come on, man. Jeez, we got it. We have heart. We have heart. We're gonna remember that. Okay, so you mentioned Darth Plagueis. I want to see Ewan and Liam in the third movie.
Yeah, I thought.
I want to
that
see.
too.
I want them
I
to.
want the final. I want the final shot to be everybody. Everybody that's died shows up as a Force ghost.
I would love to see Luke arguing, Ghost Luke, Blue Ghost Luke arguing with Ewan, and Ewan in turn arguing with Liam, and Yoda trying to get everybody to shut the fuck up. And I guess Hayden.
Now, would they throw in Hayden Christensen or would they throw in?
They can't throw in Sebastian Shaw. He's dead.
Sebastian
I think.
Shaw, yeah.
Sebastian Shaw, I believe, is dead.
Well, I know, but they can use foot. Like I'm saying, they can use foot. I mean, this is.
Oh yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars.
You're probably
they can
right.
Do something.
They could probably take Alec Guinness even, but I would rather see Ewan and Liam pop up because I want closure on all of this. I want them to. They sort of allude a little bit to, I believe, Ewan McGregor in Force Awakens. We see a little bit of him or hear a little bit of him in one of Rey's kind of hallucinations that she had.
Yes.
And well, I want to see a little bit more of that, and I think you can do that. You can pull that off with the blue ghost effect.
Well, also, I don't think we've seen the last of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi because they did say that they are working on. They've just hired somebody to do with the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie script. They've hired somebody for that.
They have really, this
So
is.
there's a good chance.
There are so many good opportunities, but so many missed opportunities with Last Jedi. Last Jedi had an opportunity to do quite a few things, and I thought that if we're going to go out, we should go out guns blazing in Episode 9 and make it a full samurai movie, the kind of movie that Lucas did with Star Wars. Star Wars was a samurai movie more than anything. It was based more on Kurosawa than it was anything else. It should be a fight, and Rey should be turned to the dark side. Kylo should recognize his failings immediately and sacrifice himself to save her and bring her back to the good side of the Force and die in the process. He should be the sacrifice for that movie. He's obviously going to die anyway.
Well, see, I think
even though he's nowhere near as evil as Darth Vader was. He's nowhere near as evil.
I think that this movie was almost like, and I just kind of realized this, it's sort of an inverse Empire Strikes Back, where Empire Strikes Back has reveals. This has fuck yous. Empire Strikes Back.
Why didn't they just change it to Star Wars, the next to last fuck you?
Yeah. I think that Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi even has reveals of I'm your father, and this is your sister, and things like
I'm
that.
your cousin's former roommate.
Yeah. This has. Oh, you think this guy?
What does that make us? Absolutely nothing.
Lightsaber? Fuck you. Oh, Snoke? Fuck you. It's all these things. You think Luke's coming back? Fuck you.
Wait a minute. I talked about some of the reactions in the audience that I was in. Was anybody reacting in any way in your audience?
Let's see. No, because again, this is sort of the Seattle area where everybody's super polite. Nobody really. I clapped a little. There were a few claps here and there, in Star Warsy moments, but during the when Leia gets sucked out of the airlock or sucked out of the into space. I kind of quietly just sort of put my hand over my open mouth and went, but that was about it. And then at the end with the credits, people clapped. And then when the Carrie Fisher credit came up, people clapped. And again, there were a few Star Warsy moments that people clapped, but there weren't screams. There were there were a lot of laughs, especially at the beginning when the guy's on hold for General
I'm on
Hux.
hold for Hux. Is Hux there? Is he hearing me?
Actually, most of the time somebody was laughing out loud. It was me. I'm usually the loud laugher in a theater.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a pretty well-behaved audience, pretty much. But it wasn't like when I saw Phantom Menace and nobody was reacting to anything because it was such a crappy movie.
Well, I think we can wrap this one up.
Yeah. So to sum up, I am right and you are wrong. You're a bitter old man, and there's always hope for me.
Well, to sum up, I am right and you are wrong. And you are not a bitter old man, even though you've got a few months on me. So I can only, please, God, JJ, take us back. Remember what it was you loved about Star Wars. And I want you to hit that person who made the movie.
Remember what you loved about Star Wars, and then
fuck it up the ass.
Well, on that disgusting, grotesque note, I'm Dave Lawler.
and I'm David Anderson.
And we'll see you at the movies where we're going to pump you up.
You up!
No need to fall at your feet. Pretend my ship's not sinking, and I'll tell myself I'm over you, 'cause I'm the king of wishful thinking. I'm the king of wishful thinking. Get over you, I know I will. You made a hole in my heart, but I won't shed a tear for you. I'll be the king of wishful thinking. I'll get over you, baby. I know I will. I'll pretend my heart's still beating, 'cause I've got no more tears for you. I'm the king of wishful thinking. I'll get over you, oh, I know I will. You made a hole in my heart, and I'll tell myself I'm over you, 'cause I'm the king.